Greetings! You're watching Septum Sin vs. the World. I'm Septum Sin. Today is the end of a terrifying age, of a slog, if you will. A journey that started off with a hard-to-find set, and that set was Freddy's Nightmares. I am a fan of A Nightmare on Elm Street. I really enjoy the series. And the original of this, to my knowledge, has never been fully released on DVD. There have been some VHS, but mostly you can get a smattering of episodes. Like, this particular set has a few episodes of Freddy's Nightmares on it, so that you can actually see what it was like back in those days. But, this is a series that ran in the 80s, and it takes place in the timeline between the time that Freddy got, basically that Freddy got put on trial and discovered after killing the children, and the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So, for those of you who are actually looking for more canon and more relatability, this could be a good tie-in, especially the first few episodes, which are a must if you are a Friday the 13th aficionado, because it actually covers in more detail the story of what happened and how Freddy became Freddy. So that is an interesting way of doing it. Now, this series is divided into 3 types of episodes, and each episode is divided into 2 parts, making an hour long each. The parts are most of the time related to one another, either following another character from the same storyline as the first, or following along, but some of them are totally unrelated. So let's go over the 3 types. The first 2 types are usually more prevalent in the first season, whereas the third type is much more prevalent in the last season, the second season. So the first type is this basic dreamscape where you go into this person's life. They're either not happy with their life or something's going on in their life, and then Freddy basically starts screwing with them in their dreams. And it gets to the point where things get so weird and surreal that you really have a hard time telling what's real and what's the dream. That line just gets blurred so much. And the endings are varied. They don't always end up with the good guy winning. They don't always end up with the bad guy winning. They don't always end up with a murder or death at the end. And that's pretty consistent throughout the whole. The second type is much like your typical Friday the 13th movie. It's about Freddy messing with and then killing somebody. Those are few and far between. You don't see them as often. You don't see them directly screwing with people other than just, messing around with their dreams. The third is more of a soap opera-y type, drama type episode where you're dealing with base human nature, backstabbing, murder, greed, robbery, these types of things. And smattered between are kind of these dreams that they have that are kind of portray the potential future that they might face, but don't necessarily mean anything to the story. Those are the ones that are in the majority, especially in the second season, which is a shame because the other 2 are far more interesting than the others. Freddy is, of course, present in every episode, making some commentary at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, sort of as your host. And he is directly involved, like I say, in smatterings throughout the actual series. But in some cases, he's not involved at all, and doesn't even get involved with the people's dreams. It's more like some other supernatural force. So, to give you an example of 2 particular ones that fall along this weird aspect. You've got the weird, more psychologically altered, which is like there's one where you have a teenager who wants to get out of the house, and and he's tired of living under his mother. So Freddy starts showing nightmares of him killing his parents, or him being shot in the drive-thru. And then some bad stuff actually does happen. There's also the other type of episode, like with some supernatural stuff about a man who's, say, going into the sewer. And there's actually this monster in the sewer, and you never know really whether this monster is real or imagined, but something's down there, and something is deadly. And then, of course, with the most frequent type would be something like, for instance, there's one about an art dealer who decides to have himself like fake his death so that he can increase the value of his artwork. And then he constantly worries after that point that the people around him that know about it will end up betraying him in order to take that money away from them and take that fame away from him. So those are the three types. So what was good about this series? Well, again, the surreal aspect kind of left you guessing in a lot of episodes as to what was dream and what was reality. Those were the really good episodes. And those episodes that involved Freddy heavily, those were also really good. Those kind of had that same feel. I mean, there's one where he ends up taking over a medium and just starts killing people left and right. And this is, to me, that was like, this is awesome. This is Friday the 13th right here. This is classic. Also, it has Freddy in it. Freddy's involved in it. Unlike the Friday the 13th series, the Freddy's Nightmare series is very much related to A Nightmare on Elm Street. And it does attach certain levels of the storyline, which, again, that is a good thing. So, we've talked about the good. Let's talk about the bad. It drags. Most episodes drag. It's like watching a daytime soap opera a lot of the time. And it's an hour long. And that, I think a lot of the issues I felt with the pacing in this series would have been fixed if the episodes were only a half hour each. And I will admit there were a lot of episodes I was just sitting there going, and I shouldn't be doing that in a series like this. I should be like riveted. When I was watching the Friday the 13th series, I wasn't that bored with it for the most part. Most of the episodes were entertaining. In this one, most of the episodes were boring. I'd say about 60% of the episodes were boring. And 40% of them were excellent. But that's not a good ratio. Especially when you have 40 episodes and that's 40 hours of viewing that you're trying to get through. And I really don't know. It just, to me, it's just one of those things. So with Freddy's Nightmares, like I say, there's good and there's bad. I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's still an enjoyable series. I still say it is a must for fans. If you get a chance to find a copy of this, I mean, this was a repurposed copy. This was kind of one of those bootleg type copies. I don't do them very often. Maybe one of these days I'm going to do a blog about the few boots that I have in my system, in my collection, which all have one thing in common, which is you cannot get a legit American release of this particular product, which is a shame. I would love to see this cleaned up a little bit and have some extra stuff like commentary and so on. See why they took those roads that they took. So again, 6 because it's interesting. A 6 because it's horrifying at times. And a 6 because it's Freddy. That way you've got 6, 6, and 6. So with that being said, please like this video if you enjoyed it. Of course, subscribe and share this content. And finally, comment. I mean, have any of you all seen this series? What is your thought about this series? Was it a slog for you, or did you enjoy every moment of it? Do you agree with the daytime TV aspect that I see with a lot of these episodes? Definitely drop me a line on this. So I look forward to seeing you all again, and we'll be back again with another one next time.